Hello, guys. It's Jarrett. Can anybody hear me? Can anybody hear me? Not sure. Call Nikki Davis on cell.
Calling Nikki Davis. Mobile. Hello?
Hey, Nikki, can you guys not hear me?
Oh, I can see you.
But I'm
I can
talking
see you.
and I'm not on mute. And I'm
I can
talking.
hear you, Jared.
You can?
Yeah, this is Jordan. I can hear you.
You can hear me, Jordan?
Correct.
All right.
You should mute yourself, but I can see you as a presenter on my screen. So right now, the only thing that's supposed to be live is the header slide, but I can't tell you that your volume is.
Jarrett, now you're muted.
Thank you, Jordan. Can you hear me okay? Actually, Nikki, hold on. I'm on with Jordan. She's talking to me. So, Jordan, can you hear me okay? Is this the right volume?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay, great. Then I'm going to assume it works. And I'm going to assume that everybody else who's muted, Nikki and Megan and Anna Lane, can also hear me. And I'm ready. I'll just sit here until we're ready to go.
Yeah, your volume sounds great. And Jarrett, I'll be monitoring the volunteer services inbox. If anything does come through, I can text it over to you.
You want to text me, or so it'll be not in the chat then?
Do you want me to do it? You let me know. Is it easier to put it in the chat or to text you?
I would, I mean, if you're getting emails, you could email them to me. That would probably be faster for you, right?
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm good with whatever.
Yeah, why don't you just, we can tell people where to email it.
Mhm.
People are used to using the chat box, so I'm also
Yeah.
okay, but can you
Monitor.
maybe run can you run it and then you can read the question to me? Because the challenge is I've got to have the slides in front of me, so I can't be going back and forth to the chat box.
Yeah, no, I can definitely monitor the chat. That's perfect.
And then we'll just do that at the end, right? We'll do the questions at the end.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Okay, I'm just gonna put myself on mute now and just review the notes. Okay, guys?
Okay.
Talk to you later. Hey there, Megan Donnelly, if you can hear me, there's a change. This first slide keeps getting screwed up. I don't know how it happens. If we can take off that first number, 420,000 meals, or just put served today at the end of it to give people a sense of it. If you can amend that slide, please. Okay. I don't have a sense, Megan, that you can hear me or not. So maybe you could take yourself off mute.
Jared, I think Megan's the only one who's having issues with sound, so we'll relay that information to her. You just said add as of today, correct?
No. 426,336 meals served today. Total meals is right underneath that.
Got it.
Got it? Okay, thanks. Greetings, everyone. This is Jarrett Barrios. I am the Regional Chief Executive here at the LA region, and I want to thank you all for joining a Teams live conversation. I guess I'm the live part of that. I wanted to thank you all for joining tonight. I'm going to do my best to go slowly and take folks through updates on what we in the LA region are doing currently in our activities in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And after that, I'm going to go through, we will have the opportunity for questions. I know that for folks who are familiar with the Teams platform, you may be familiar with the chat box. You should feel free to type into the chat box. If you are not familiar with, you have no idea what I mean when I say chat box, you can email your questions. And I believe it says here on the header where you can email questions. Let's see, it says town hall. Oops, it only says that we are going to begin momentarily. I'm going to pause and ask Jordan Rogers, who's monitoring the call with me, to come off mute and tell people where they can email questions if they don't know how to use the chat box.
Hi, yeah, thank you, Jarrett. You can email questions to volunteerservices.losangeles.ca@redcross.org. I've also published it into the live event Q&A. But again, if you're not sure what that is on Teams, no worries. Again, it is volunteerservices.losangeles.ca@redcross.org. And I'll be in that chat or in the email inbox tonight. If you have any questions, we can get those filtered out.
Thank you, and thank you so much for that, Jordan. I myself didn't know what a chat box was until 2 weeks ago. So I think it's that's really emblematic of where we are right now. A lot of us care passionately about not just the Red Cross, but about working with and for and through the Red Cross, particularly in the moment that we're in. But we're also challenged in terms of how we work. So much of what we do has gone virtual, and learning how to use these new tools, well, it's essential. So I'm going to ask you to lean in with me. I've figured out how to do a GIF in the last 2 weeks, how to do chat box. I think all of you can. If I can figure this out, you can too. So anyway, I wanted to really just start by acknowledging really what all of you probably know already. The state of California has been now for going more than 10 days, has been on what some people call lockdown, the stay-at-home order, and at the Red Cross, this is the red state, is what we call it. It is the highest degree of both restriction on our movement as individuals, but also in terms of how we have thought through both our blue sky work and our gray sky work as it is impacted. The red zone is sort of, that's the most restrictive environment within which we can obviously try to perform our work. We've been this way for over 10 days and it's challenging. I just want to acknowledge that. It's requiring all of us to figure out how to get on these team meetings, and some of us are still calling in old school, but you're not able to see and participate as fully. Really, really encouraging all of you, if you need any help figuring out any of this technology, reach out to your supervisor, whether it's a volunteer supervisor or staff supervisor, and see if you can get some coaching or some support so that you are able to participate more fully, because that full participation at a critical time is both more meaningful for you, but it also allows you to participate in a way that supports the Red Cross mission with the special skills that each of you bring. I wanted to also acknowledge a little bit about the nature of some of our work. This particular stay-at-home order has implications for all of us, but particular particularly for those who are over 65 or perhaps in a high-risk category. Your immune system might be compromised. You have a chronic disease like diabetes, and or asthma that's being treated, and you are in a higher risk category. We would strongly discourage you from coming out and volunteering at some of the activities that we are still doing out in the field, and we would rather see you find a way remotely from your home where you're safe, find a way to participate. And there are actually a few of those activities that I'm going to discuss tonight. So hopefully we can find something. If you're bored at home and wanting to get some hours into volunteer connection, we've got some stuff for you to do. So I wanted to then just quickly also mention our offices in this red period. Almost all of our offices are closed right now. So the Glendale, Arcadia, Commerce, Long Beach, Palmdale, and Santa Monica offices are officially closed. That does not mean you can't get in there if you need something. What it does mean is you need to email the operations team, Leslie Moore or David Englin, leslie.moore@redcross.org or david.englin, E-N-G-L-I-N, @redcross.org, and let them know that you need access. And that's partially for security reasons, but it's also because alarm systems are on and stuff, but also because we want to know, because the offices have been cleaned and in this environment, we want to make sure that everybody going in and out is following safety protocols to protect everybody else. The only office that is open is our headquarters building. The headquarters building downtown, many, if not most of you, have been to it. And that is open, however, only for the active disaster response. So we have most of those folks, about 80% of the team members who've been deployed on the DR are working this remotely. I'm not counting in that number the folks who are volunteering on a daily basis out at the points of distribution, the pods. I'm talking about the people who are full-time deployed on 2-week assignments to the DR. 80% of those folks are doing it remotely. I think I've spoken to Kathy Spruill 1,000 times at this point. I actually haven't seen Kathy, except I've seen her icon on the Teams calls, because Kathy's working remotely, as are most folks. And I would suggest that for most of you, if you want to be part of this and you have and you're interested in being part of the deployed workforce, reach out to Joselito or Marcus. Marcus is the workforce lead. We can find a role for you on this operation, hopefully that's remote. If that's what's been discouraging you, that you shouldn't be leaving your house and you know it, we can find something for you to do. So hopefully you will join us. We need everybody. So the DR is the only group of folks currently in our office, along with security and staff cleaning. We're disinfecting that office. There's lots of hand sanitizer and disinfecting wipes. People are practicing social distancing. You would not recognize the EOC. We're actually in 3 or 4 different conference rooms, and there's 2 or 3 people in each room. It's really well spread out, and we're taking great precautions for those people that are still in the same physical space. They are very far apart, and we're taking great care in that regard, as we should be. I do want to now move to what it is we're doing out in the field, and I want to start by talking about this project partnership that we have with the Los Angeles Unified School District. So Megan, if you can change slides. Thank you. So what you're looking at here is a quick total of what we are doing, and a little bit of background on this. The Los Angeles Unified School District reached out to us right after the schools closed. Most of you may know that in addition to being the second largest school district in the United States, it has, over 80% of the young people qualify for free and reduced lunch. So these are young people who get, when the schools are open, 2, even 3 meals a day from the schools. Their parents are exactly those folks in our workforce who've lost their jobs immediately when we went into safer at home protocols. folks with their jobs being shut down, people not being able to work, really now looking at and relying on the food that their kids were receiving to support their whole families. So what's being distributed at the school sites, and there are 60 school sites, we are in around 40 of them supporting LAUSD every day, is we are distributing up to 2 meals per person per family every day. So there are literally thousands of cars lining up, and our volunteers, along with staff at Los Angeles Unified School District, are distributing at an appropriate social distancing way. So we have these, you can see in this picture, these long carts are taken either to the passenger side window and sort of slowly dumped into the passenger seat, or in the back, you can see in the lower picture, in the back portion. So we never actually have any direct contact, or do we get closer than a few feet, five or 6 feet from the driver. And that 5 or 6 feet would be through the passenger side door, across an empty passenger seat to the driver. So it feels as if it's a safe distance, and we've been practicing that protocol, and we've been frankly teaching our partners at LAUSD how to more effectively practice social distancing, as well as wearing gloves and now masks folks are wearing that are provided by LAUSD. These meals are free to those we are giving them to. We don't ask information from the families. We do ask them if they have a few minutes of time while they're waiting in line in many of our sites to discuss their safety. Our AmeriCorps, through the California for All program, have performed now over 13,000 contacts, where they're providing life-saving coronavirus safety information to individuals coming to pick up meals. So I guess you could say we have a captured audience, and we're taking advantage to proselytize in the way that we do at Red Cross. We proselytize resilience and safety and health in these difficult times. And our AmeriCorps are doing such an amazing job while they're doing this. They are also doing it from 6 feet away, but they're having conversations, and along with the food, they're leaving some handouts, safety information, not just on coronavirus, but also on home fire safety and earthquake preparedness and wildfire preparedness. So we're giving it all to them. Hopefully they're able to see it, take a look at it, and we're able to answer their questions while they're in line. We're pretty proud of that work. I couldn't be prouder of our AmeriCorps and the work that they're doing. On a typical day, we're getting about 130 to 150 volunteers out to the sites. As I said, we get about 3 or 4 at each site, and we do a solid 4-hour shift of food distribution from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. And as you can see, we've put up some big numbers. Just today, we served 420,000 meals. Right now, we're getting close to 3 million. We're going to hit 3 million meals served probably by Wednesday, if not tomorrow, which are some pretty impressive amounts of food moving from those school district sites, which are schools, middle schools and high schools, out into the community. Pretty excited about that. Okay, why don't we move on to the next slide, if that's okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about blood, but before I do, I did want to take the moment. You just heard Jordan read the address. If you are interested in volunteering, or perhaps you know somebody who's interested in volunteering at the school sites, we ask that you be healthy, that you not be in a high-risk group, and that you be willing to abide by our safety protocol: gloves, mask. I like to wear a hat as well, and obviously practicing social distancing. If you're able and willing to do that, we really need volunteers out there feeding the kids. The email address that Jordan gave you, you can also email that you're interested. Again, that email address is volunteerservices.losangeles.ca, that's for California, at redcross.org. Volunteerservices.losangeles.ca at redcross.org. All right. I want to talk now about blood. You've probably heard on email or in the news, we hope, about the work that Red Cross is doing to secure the nation's blood supply. We've been doing this work since before World War II. And we currently, not only do we collect over 45% of the nation's blood supply, we are partners with the United States in securing that blood supply. So if there's a shortage in one part of the country, it's Red Cross that works to ship the blood to make sure that hospital shelves don't go empty. And that's why we have played such a lead role in this difficult time, at a time when so many blood drives, over 10,000 blood drives have been canceled across the United States. It's been hundreds of thousands of units of blood that's gone uncollected. And this is important because about 80% of our blood supply, some of you may call in and make appointments and go into the Red Cross donor sites. Well, those are important, but traditionally they only account for about 20% of the blood we collect. Those blood drives account for about 80%. So when all of them were canceling, it was a real risk to our blood supply. We were down to about a 2-day supply on the shelves, and we typically like to have a 6 or 7 day supply of blood on hospital shelves. So you can imagine we were pulling out all the stops, and gosh, America came through for us. People called and made appointments. There was the good kind of, I got complaint calls. I was calling, it was 14 days before they could see me. Well, that's actually really good news, because that means they're working double shifts. That means that a lot of other people called before you, and people were opening up their veins and giving the blood that they needed to give to support this part of our mission. So it's really, really heartwarming that people did that. Where are we right now? Well, in addition to the call for individuals to give blood, we are beginning to line up blood drives at a time when we think we will be able to again have them. Now, we can still do blood drives, much like our own facilities. We've developed them so that it's as safe as we believe we can possibly make it. People have their temperature taken outside, and again when they come inside. They sanitize outside and again when they come inside. The blood drive locations are a little different. We can't use our blood mobiles right now because we can't do the social distancing we need. But where we have a fixed site, say an office that somebody has donated, we can separate all of the cots, the beds where people sit down on or lay down on to give blood. We can separate those at appropriate distances. So we just need a bit more square footage for those. Currently, we are, so while we're not pushing people right now to sign up to make appointments, we are still trying to get businesses, churches or synagogues, social groups who are willing to hold a blood drive, and we will come to a site. We need a few thousand square feet. We can send you the information, but if you think you know of a place that would be willing to hold a blood drive, please email either, you can see the emails here, Jennifer.Johnson14@redcross.org, or you can email Aaron O'Toole at aaron.o'toole2@redcross.org. They can, or somebody else on their teams can make sure to follow up with you. We can send you what the criteria we need for a blood, to do a blood campaign at a specific location, and we'll take care of it from there. So if you have any questions about that, you can put them in the chat box. Happy to answer them. But the best thing to do would be to email Aaron or Jennifer or both, and they'll get back to you. And the great news is we've already identified, just in the last week, 33 new drives right here in LA that we're going to be able to help make up for many of those that were canceled. And that's going to really, hopefully, put us back on the road to a secure blood supply here in the Los Angeles region and around the country. So why don't we go to the next slide? Want to talk about next area that we are helping along, and this is what we're calling COOP workshops. I think some of you might know what COOP stands for, Continuity of Operations Planning. This is something we do a lot of at the Red Cross, and through our Prepare SoCal campaign, we've done this sort of planning with a lot of our nonprofit partners. But now that we're in the COVID-19 era where people are working remotely, it's come to our attention from a lot of nonprofits that that they're having trouble shifting to a virtual working environment. A lot of these nonprofits, they do really important things in the community. They provide they feed, they take care of the elderly, they provide legal services, they provide mental health and counseling services, and they don't know, and they're trying to figure out how they continue to provide those services in a world where many of them can't leave their homes. And this is something that we have developed a workshop. We did a big training a couple weeks ago now. We had over 200 nonprofits on the phone, and a lot of them, when we took them through this, a lot of them had questions. Well, gosh, I have some specific needs in ours. Can you give us a consult? So we've begun to set up basically a training program, workshops. If you know an organization that would like a sort of training, or maybe you'd like to be a trainer, reach out to Stephanie Grande and she'll connect you to David Englund and the team that are standing these up. We're going to do our first trainings this week. We've got about 25 organizations that have already reached out and expressed interest. If you know of an organization that would like this training, we'll do anybody in the LA County area. We're happy to do it. Just let us know, and they can sign up, and we'll get one of our volunteer trainers to do that. If you'd like to become a volunteer trainer, you can email Stephanie as well. And assuming they're not overwhelmed already with volunteers, I actually don't know how many they've got. We may be able to put you to work on that. Okay. Any questions about that, into the chat box, and we'll get to them at the end. Okay. So what about other volunteer needs? Before we switch slides, I did want to mention a couple of things. We have a lot of volunteers right now, particularly those who are over 60 or over 65, who typically come out to DRs, and a lot of them have been sort of, well, I've been getting emails. You know, I'm antsy, I'm at home, I want to help, but the doctor says I shouldn't leave. We agree with the doctor. We don't want you to leave your house, but there are some things that you can do. We have a program right now that we started with the onset of COVID-19, and some amazing volunteers who stepped forward to do it. We're calling it Project Wellness. It's Red Crossers calling Red Crossers. It's like calling your Aunt Betty and asking her how she's doing. A lot of us are calling it Betty these days, but there are lots of Red Cross volunteers. We have over 8,000 of them, and we're finding that in this isolated world, a lot of people are getting depressed, lonely, particularly because they want to be helping, but they don't think they can help in this particular moment. And so for these volunteers, they're literally getting a list of people to call and just talking to people, talking through their loneliness and talking through kind of their hopes and dreams and aspirations, and maybe even helping them engage. We've made over 1,000 calls. We've had 1,000 conversations with people across our organization. There's 8,000 of us, so we've got a few more to call. If you are interested in being part of the Project Wellness team and in calling other Red Crossers to check in, we'd love to hear from you. You can see, actually, I don't think that we have a slide for this, but you can email Nikki Davis, Nikki.Davis, Davis, at redcross.org. Nikki, Nikki.Davis at redcross.org. Email Nikki and she can plug you in. We have a team of about, gosh, I think over 20 volunteers now making those calls, chatting people up, really lifting them out of the gray that a lot of us seem to be have descended into, which is totally understandable in this environment. We're at home, we're far from where we feel we need to be, but we need to be at home. And if you are in that situation and you'd like to help, we could really use you calling your fellow Red Crossers. So thank you for that. The other thing that we can do, and really would love to engage you in virtually, we are still conducting preparedness classes online. We're having conversations with folks through Zoom. We're providing Red Cross Ready materials. These are all things you can do, and you can continue to be signing up for your DAT calls, even if your DAT call is now remote. I encourage you to reach out to your volunteer supervisor, reach out to your DPM, your disaster program manager, your disaster program specialist. They can tell you how you can be doing DAT. So please don't stop signing up for DAT shifts. We need you to sign up for those shifts. We don't expect you to go out physically at this point. We do expect you to be available to do it virtually, and they can tell you how we're doing that, okay? And that's the case with our SAF and our international services casework. There's a lot of ways that we're hoping to engage folks. So I wanted to move on to the LA region. The last thing, I'm going to ask if we can go to the map, not this slide, but the next slide. There we go. I want to just talk about the realignments. I think a lot of you have had a lot of volunteers who are in disaster cycle services and who go to the monthly territory meetings. A lot of this you already know, but not everybody does. So I wanted to take a quick opportunity to talk about some changes that have been in the works for a long time, but despite COVID, they're still going into effect on April 6th. We have had it's been like 5 years that I've been really working to see if we can align our chapter boundaries with our territory boundaries. That is finally happening on April 6th. But that's not the only thing that's happening. I think some of you may have heard that the northern parts of our region, Inyo County, Mono County, and the eastern half of Kern County, which have been part of our region for a while now, for almost a decade, they're going to be shifting over and become part of the Central California region. And that geography shift goes into effect on April 6th. Volunteers who live in Kern, who in the LA region, but who live in Kern, Inyo, or Mono counties, it's about 40 volunteers, 50 volunteers. They will be shift and become part of the Central California team. For purposes of Volunteer Connection, they're going to be in the Red Cross LA region's Volunteer Connection until the end of the fiscal year, until June 30th. Then they officially become part of Volunteer Connection. But in terms of day-to-day work, that shift over is effective April 6th. All right. Now, so those are really going to be the only changes for people directly affected by intra-region changes, boundary changes. Within our region, there are these alignments, and I'd like you to please take a look at this map. This map will be on our website either later tonight or tomorrow. But you can see, so San Gabriel Pomona Valley, that's territory 2, and that's going to be complete alignment. Some of these are different, right? Glendale is officially part of territory 2 now, and in the San Gabriel Pomona Valley region. That's one example, and I believe Burbank is as well. So you have a few cities on the edges that are changing. The Santa Monica Bay chapter has grown a lot into LA. It's actually changing its name to the Western Los Angeles chapter, and in that change, you can see not just Malibu and traditional beach communities, but all the way over to Inglewood and, gosh, almost to downtown, or parts of downtown are included in that. You have T5 and T4 are still there, and they make up together the Long Beach, Rio Hondo, and South Bay chapter, and then T1 and the Northern Valleys chapter. You can see a lot of the San Fernando Valley still there, although some of its territory in the east, Glendale, Burbank, is moving over to San Gabriel, Pomona. If you want a specific copy of this, again, you can go onto our website, get it tomorrow, or you can email any of your DPMs, DPSs, anybody on this call, and we'll get you a copy of these maps, just so that you can figure out whether or not your address where you live has moved territories, and whether and what that will require in terms of which territory meetings you go to and so forth. All right. Okay, let's see. I want to also just mention the new names of the chapters, and this is a process that the chapter boards went through. Territory 1 now aligns. I called it the Northern Valleys chapter, but the official name is going to be the American Red Cross Serving the Northern Valleys. You guys are going to still call it the Northern. I'm okay with that. I hope you're okay with that. I don't think any of us are actually going to say American Red Cross Serving the Northern Valleys, but that's what the website's going to say. Similarly, Territory 2 is going to be aligned with what we have historically called the San Gabriel Pomona Valley chapter. Its new name, American Red Cross Serving the Greater San Gabriel and Pomona Valleys. I guess it's greater maybe because you have the Verdugos now in there or something, but be that as it may, it will probably still be called the San Gabriel Pomona Valley chapters. Territory 3, which now aligns with what has been the Greater Santa Monica Bay chapter is now going to be called, the chapter is going to be called the American Red Cross Serving Western Los Angeles. Not Western Los Angeles County, Western Los Angeles. I don't know what they're going to call themselves, the Western Los Angeles chapter. We'll see where that goes, but really grateful for all the work these boards have done to find the right name for their chapters. And finally, territories 4 and 5, the American Red Cross serving Greater Long Beach, South Bay, and Metro and Southeast Los Angeles. I challenge anybody to say that fast 10 times. I'm going to say it one more time. That's probably all I can get out. American Red Cross serving Greater Long Beach, South Bay, and Metro and Southeast Los Angeles. That's a mouthful. But you can see in the map, they actually come right up and have parts of downtown. So it's no longer your grandmother's Long Beach chapter anymore. It's a very big region. And as with all the other regions, it's got a lot of people in it. Territories 1, 2, and 3 each have 2 million, just over 2 million people. Territories 4 and 5 have 2 million each, but together that chapter, the Long Beach, South Bay, Metro, and Southeast LA chapter has over 4 million people in it. So there are a lot of folks there. So, all right, I have some reminders, and I'm not sure if there's a slide to go along with this. It says that there's a slide, but we mentioned via email that with all the social distancing and the Safer at Home, we've canceled. I'm going to correct myself. I correct everybody else. We haven't canceled. We've postponed all of our sound the alarm events, all of our home fire safety visits, and in-person preparedness presentations. You heard earlier about the volunteer opportunity to do remote virtual trainings. That we're doing those because we're no longer doing in-person trainings. We're going to continue to work closely with public health officials to determine when, if ever, when we'll be able to go outside and be like in each other's presence again. It'll be soon. Hang in there, guys. But until that happens, we're figuring out how to do as much of this work as we can virtually. All right. And this work is in alignment not just with county public health and the state of California, but also the Red Cross Mission Matrix. And that was that document that we were on briefly before we looked at the maps that colored the green, yellow, orange, red. It's fairly complex, but basically it tells us when we're in red, as we are now, that we basically need to be doing everything virtually. All right. I have a few more updates, and then I'm going to go to Q&A. Even though our youth aren't in school, and even though they haven't been able to have their meetings in person, this probably won't surprise you, but they've been perhaps the most adept at going virtual. They've had their own district town halls. Those who are going to be counselors for this year's Youth Leadership Academy in August have been doing their trainings virtually. It's been pretty amazing. We've also been doing a lot of work on social media. Our communications team has done some great work producing safety videos, as well as getting the word out about volunteer needs. If you don't follow us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, you're missing out. A lot of great information is going out in real time on all of those channels. Our handle is Red Cross LA. You find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Red Cross LA. A lot of good information, like, for instance, how you can sign up to give out food at the schools, or how you can sign up to be a virtual volunteer with Project Wellness. All of these things and more come out through social media. So hopefully you're following us. All right. So we are going to go to the Q&A question. And since we did invite volunteers to submit questions in advance, I did get a couple of questions, and I can't, I'm reading these for the first time to answer as best I'm able, but we're also going to punt over to some of these questions to people who will get back to you. So the first question I have is from Ellis Levinson, and Ellis asks, is there a need currently for public information officers? The answer is yes. There's always a need for PIOs, and that's coordinated up through Mariam Muhayden. Mariam is our Director of Communications, Ellis, But on the DR, she's the lead in that part of the table of organization. She reports up to external relations, but she's in communications in that space. And so you'd reach out to her and she can tell you how we can put you to work. We're working differently than we typically do. We're not on site at the DR, obviously, but there is still a need. There's always a need. So hopefully you'll get some good experience and maybe even get a field promotion out of it. Okay. The next question is from Michael Howard. And Michael writes, I am aware of the new sheltering directives. However, how will the Red Cross open shelters for persons impacted by COVID-19, including mobile feeding and distribution of bulk goods such as disinfectants and paper products? Seems our herbs and other vehicles should be out doing that. I don't have a sense we are active nationally with a major mobilization. So there's a couple questions in there, Michael. I'm going to try to answer these. So right now we have no current shelters activated. Under the red protocol on that chart, I'm going to direct you where it says congregate sheltering. That's right in the middle. And if you go over to the red, what it says is that we may provide food for others to distribute inside the perimeter. So we are not allowed to be doing that, that mobile feeding. We are able to do our, through special agreement with our national office after review of LAUSD safety protocols, our feeding on site. And that's because we have a series of protocols. We're doing it with LAUSD. It's their food, not our food, that's being distributed. We are not doing our own meals or bulk distribution under this as long as we are in red. However, the other part of your question was about sheltering. I mean, suppose we have a big house fire and an apartment building is dislocated, people are dislocated from their homes. What do we do? Well, the answer is we may, the first preference is going to be to get people into hotels, and we have made arrangements to have identified hotels who are on call for us to house people. If for some reason we have to open a shelter, it would be using those protocols, and we'd be working very closely with our division and national leadership to make sure that it's necessary and that we can't solve the problem through putting people in hotels. We would be standing it up and keeping folks separate. And obviously, anybody who's either been exposed to or believes they might have COVID-19 would be isolated in a specific part of the shelter. That is the current planning work we are doing. Now, I want to note that there are a series of conversations about some of our volunteers who have training in EMR or basic life support, possibly supporting some parts of the operation that may get stood up in the coming weeks. And so that would be an exception that has not been approved by national. And we don't yet have that need, as hospitals are currently showing themselves able to meet the current need. But in the event that that were to happen, there may be some role for the Red Cross, but that has not yet been approved. Okay? All right, I want to go back to the third question that I got in advance, and this is from John Goldrick. And John isn't submitting a question. He's submitting the following for a job well done. He's telling us Nikki Davis, Julie Thomas, Jordan Rogers, and Allison Berglis. He's thanking them for their professionalism and assistance during these troubled times with the virus. Thank you, John. And I just want to say to all of you, we are here to answer questions, but I love getting these sort of statements. It's so important to share the good news and share the thanks in this time. A lot of us are stressed. We're all working hard, and we're not just working hard, we're working hard to be kind as well. So your efforts to be kind by sharing this, John, are really appreciated. All right. Okay, those are the questions I got in advance. I'm going to pause and invite Jordan to come off mute and maybe tell me if we have any other questions in the chat box or that have been emailed to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have two. I've been answering people along the way, which has been great. So it's been nice to see some participation. So thank you, everyone. So Jarrett, our first question is, could you expand more on Red Cross wearing masks? Originally, information sent out mentioned the health department request Red Cross volunteers not wear masks, but the school that this person volunteered at would prefer everyone to wear masks.
Right. That's a great question. I'm really glad that. Do we know who asked the question, Jordan?
It was anonymous in the
chat.
An
anonymous chat. Oh, well, thank you, anonymous. So that particular question has actually a fairly straightforward answer. We have followed at the Red Cross CDC protocol, which says that unless you are in a healthcare setting, i.e. in a hospital, individuals don't need to wear masks unless they've been exposed or believe they might actually have COVID-19. And why is that? This idea that it might be when you're intubating somebody in a hospital setting, yes, it might actually be, the term is aerosolized, meaning it can actually go, it can be kind of floating around in the air and you can catch it. That's not believed to be the case in outdoor settings, like where we have been at the schools, which is why we had not recommended people wear masks unless obviously they felt like they'd been exposed. And of course, if you've been exposed, you shouldn't be out there, you should be home, which is where you're recommended, which is why we were not having any of our volunteers wear masks. Having said that, part of our agreement with our partners was that we essentially follow local practice. If it goes sort of further, we will not reduce our safety protocol. So we're always going to wear gloves, for example, even if a partner doesn't. But if our partner wants to have additional safety protocols, we will agree, and they have the resources to support it. We will support and ascribe to their safety protocol. So that was our agreement with LAUSD. And since they were asking everybody to wear masks and they have the masks, we were asking our volunteers to sort of, when in Rome, this is the when in Rome principle. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. They were asking us to wear masks. They were providing masks. So we have asked our volunteers, when volunteering, to wear masks together with the LAUSD employees. And that's why. Next question.
All right, next question. I do see one popped up in the inbox as well, so I will get to that. Next question is, scrolling down. David Tuckman asked, how is DAT handling the need of hotel stays during the quarantine order? Are DAT teams responding directly to the incident scene or responding virtually or both? How can DAT issue a Red Cross debit card if they are virtual?
Those are great questions. And you can see there's a link here. So to all volunteers, I want to encourage you guys to you can get a lot. I'm going to answer Dave's question generally, but if you want more information, you can see right here where it says DAT response. Provide DAT response per this response tactics job tool. It has all the information you might need. And then there's a separate document on financial assistance procedures. The bottom line is, in many cases, we are FedExing those to people, the CAT cards to folks, by doing it virtually. Because we're in red, we're not personally going to do that, but we are using Federal Express to take it to people. Having said that, there's a lot more information, David, in terms of how we're doing those DAT responses. If you can't access these on the exchange, which is where they live, talk to your supervisor and they can make sure to get you a copy. Okay, next question.
Let me open my inbox real fast to a question from Roxanne. I heard on the radio that Red Cross would be helping to distribute hand sanitizer. Is there any truth to that?
Oh, Roxanne, thank you for that question. Ay. So we have an amazing partner. Some of you may have heard Anheuser-Busch, based in St. Louis. They have a facility in Van Nuys. They made a $5 million donation to the Red Cross for all of our COVID-19 response, and we're so grateful to them. They also did a beautiful video saluting the work of healthcare workers and Red Cross and others in this time, and I would encourage you to look it up on Facebook. One of the things they also said they were going to do is, presumably because they have alcohol at their plants, is they were moving to create, literally manufacturing hand sanitizer. And so we had a series of conversations saying we'd love their hand sanitizer, and they're going to be providing it to different Red Crosses in California out of their, I think it's going to be their San Diego plant. But apparently somebody on their PR team was a little overzealous and told some newspapers that they were giving it to the Red Cross, and somehow that became we were giving it to the public, which is not the case. And in fact, we still haven't, this was 2 weeks ago, and we still haven't received hand sanitizer. So we've had to give instructions to everybody. Even though our offices are closed, we still have people answering the phones remotely. And so we've had to give instructions to everybody. We are not distributing hand sanitizer. We don't have, and we don't have hand sanitizer for the moment to give out. When we get hand sanitizer, if we get it from Anheuser-Busch, it would be for use in our facilities and in our responses. So at the schools and in other work that we are doing. So it's really around targeting where the need is greatest and not to distribute to the general public. I hope that answers your question, Roxanne. And I do want to say we're totally grateful for Anheuser-Busch. We're just a little bit challenged by how the press seems to have gotten this a little wrong. So you guys can help us correct that. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Jarrett. I do have a question regarding the alignment. Someone was wondering if that's going to happen automatically. They want to ensure the volunteers, sorry, I'm trying to read it as I speak out loud, that fall under the new battery aren't going to be automatically switched. I know this can cause some confusion to volunteers, and we want to make sure they're taken care of if they feel aligned to a certain space.
So I'm not sure where the question, so is the question in there, does it happen automatically? Right. So the territory change is automatic, but I believe we've always had a policy that a volunteer can participate in the territory they want. This is actually now wandering a little bit outside my area of competence. I happen to know volunteers that live in one territory and have volunteered in the other, and I assume that's standard policy and wouldn't change. It just may affect some people now differently because some people were volunteering in the territory that was, quote, where they lived, and now they might be living in a different territory. Ideally, we want people volunteering in the communities they live in. So over time, we would, I think, hope that people would want to volunteer in the territory they live in. But I don't, I sort of don't know beyond that. Maybe Jordan, I know that it's a little bit after 8 o'clock. We should maybe, this will be the last question. Do you have a specific answer on that? Do you have a specific answer on that?
I believe an email will go out to volunteers that are in affected areas of that alignment with that information. Nothing will happen automatically if we hear back from volunteers regarding their decision on if they choose to be aligned or not.
Great, thanks. So guys, I promised, I'm sorry to cut you off, Jordan. I promised you this was only going to be till 8. We've gone a little bit late. Jordan, are there any other questions? Like if there's one more, maybe we can just do the last one and we'll wrap up.
That was it.
That was it. Great. All right. So thank you all. So listen, one last point. My email is jarrett.barrios, JARRETT.BARRIOS @redcross.org. Shoot me an email if you can, if you think of another question, or go to Jarrett's box in Volunteer Connection. That comes to me as well. And so if you think of something later, let me know. We are trying to do this town hall and every other form of communication because we recognize things are kind of crazy now, a lot of changes. We want to answer them. But obviously, I don't expect you to have every question at your fingertips right now. So this is not like speak now or forever hold your peace. Feel free to reach out to us later. We're so grateful for your participation. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night. Okay?